Welcome to the Terrible Podcast with your hosts from SteelersDepot.com, where you can find all your latest and greatest Steelers news. It's Dave Bryan and Alex Kozora, always lit, talking Steelers. And now, here's Dave and Alex.
Welcome to the Terrible Podcast, Season 11, Episode 45. He's Dave Bryan. I'm Alex Kozora, SteelersDepot.com. Glad you guys are back with us here on this Wednesday, Steelers Nation. Dave, how you doing?
Doing good. The days are flying by. We're already behind, and I'm on my second pot of coffee here. But a lot to get to today. An exciting day. Week 11 of the NFL season already underway now, and it started off this morning with Ben Roethlisberger. I had the post ready, Alex. I wrote it up last night. I had a good feeling about Ben Roethlisberger named AFC Player of the Week for Week 11 for his great game that he had against the Bengals on Sunday. We'll talk a little bit more about the Bengals game from the all-22 perspective later on in the show, but it's a great day to be alive, yes?
It is, and later on in the show, we'll talk to our friend John Reid, a beat reporter for the Florida Times-Union, to cover Jacksonville, as the Steelers will face off against the 1-8 Jags this Sunday at 1 o'clock. So we'll speak with John a little bit later in the show. But to start things off, Dave, Mike Tomlin, of course, had his Tuesday press conference, as he does every Tuesday, yesterday, and gave some good news on the injury report. And I will say, I think this is like the third week in a row he's been optimistic about Mike Hilton returning, but he did say that he's optimistic for Hilton to return and also for Chris Wormley with that knee injury to be activated off of injured reserve. He's missed the last couple of weeks. His defensive line depth has been pretty readily tested. So on the injury report front, things looking pretty good right now.
Yeah, so far so good, so what, as they like to say. We'll see. You're right. It seems like we've been optimistic about Mike Hilton for several weeks now, and then here we are. He's missed four consecutive games. I got an extra special good feeling about this week. Just the way Mike Tomlin presented it there. Mike Hilton is back to work tomorrow. Tomorrow meaning today, which is Wednesday. Says he's also excited about that and Chris Wormley as well, who's missed a significant amount of time with his knee injury. I would guess, Alex, will get the announcement here probably while we're on the podcast that Chris Wormley has had his 21-day window open. I don't think we've gotten that yet, have we?
No.
In any of this. And with him being on IR, that's part of the process. Now, are we talking that he's going to be that ready to go in just a few days of practice? I think there's the question mark there. Is there a need to rush him right now back, or do you want to get a week of conditioning with him? I think all that's yet to be seen. But I think the biggest thing is that we'll get the announcement today that his 21-day window will be activated, and obviously he will have to be put back on the 53-man roster if he is going to play against the Jaguars on Sunday, and such a move would probably happen on Saturday if indeed that was the case. These Saturdays have become, it's a good thing we have to, we're having to stick around close to the house with all the quarantine and all, because Saturdays have become days that quite busy days when it comes to transactions. Rounding out the rest of the injury report, Trey Edmonds, running back Trey Edmonds, had a hamstring injury against the Bengals. It sounds like he's kind of questionable to start the week, and Jalen Samuels with a quad sounds like he's kind of questionable to start the week as well too. So those are a couple names to keep in mind as we move into this Wednesday and this first injury report of Week 11. Also, Mike Tomlin was not asked about, and probably rightfully so, a few of the other players, and that includes Vance McDonald, who is on the COVID list still, Kevin Dotson, who's still on the COVID list, and then Anthony McFarland, who technically missed the game because of an illness. He was inactive. Mike Tomlin was not asked about either of those three players. We don't know for sure about Kevin Dotson. We'll get our answer for sure come Saturday, because that's the end of or close to being the end of the 5 or 6 days of quarantine. So obviously, if he's not moved back off of that off of that of that list by then that means he would have tested positive, I think, for COVID and all like that. So we'll keep our eyes peeled for that. And really, the only other kind of I guess minutia part of this podcast would be that Antoine Brooks, who got signed from the practice squad on Saturday, that move was actually tagged as COVID-19 replacement player and not in elevation. And we thought he was kind of out of elevations and back and forth, which he is. He's out of elevations, but kind of thought that if he was to be moved back from the 53-man roster, it would include a waiving of some sort that way. That's not the case, evidently. And so, long story short, that classification of COVID-19 replacement allowed him to revert back to the practice squad on Monday. That one flew underneath the radar there. So right now, technically, if you're scoring at home, and I know several of you are, there is an open place on the 53-man roster. One other piece of minutia I forgot was they signed Charles Jones, former undrafted free agent out of Tulane, to the practice squad, and they released the inside linebacker Ray Wilborn?
I think Ray Wilborn.
Wilborn, who'd been on the practice squad since kind of the later part of October there. So with that, I think we have walked through all of the minutia.
Yeah, I think we have, and we'll see about the status of guys like McDonald. I think he theoretically could play Sunday against the Jaguars if he tests negative and goes through all the protocols correctly. So it's possible he returns, and that would be a welcome sight for a Steelers run game that unfortunately is struggling mightily. And Mike Tomlin was peppered with questions about the Steelers run game on Tuesday, and obviously didn't give any sort of super specific answer, but said, quote, "It's usually a combination of issues." Specifically last week, I was not surprised with the commitment that Cincinnati had to pack in the line of scrimmage. We stepped into a stadium where we hadn't seen our quarterback all week, and so it's reasonable to expect him to have an agenda to push us toward that in an effort to check his readiness, our collective cohesion, or what have you in that area. I don't know how much I buy that, the whole let Ben beat us kind of approach from the Bengals, and especially once he started to beat the Bengals, they still couldn't run the football. But Tomlin just said overall, sometimes we're just not doing good enough as well. It's a combination of all the things that you suggest. We'll roll our sleeves up and get about the business of attacking it this week, and they certainly need to get this run game on track because it's in as bad of a place as it's been really ever before.
Yeah, I see several people kind of running with that stat that you threw out too. In the stats that are weird about 3 games in a row now with 48 or less yards rushing. First time that's happened.
Under 50 yards, first time in franchise history.
That's quite a So I don't know what prompted you to research that one. God bless you, but that's
why stats are the weird.
That's right, and you would think that throughout all the annals, and as long as this team has been around, that would have been accomplished at some point. Three games in a row, because there's been some bad running teams, Steelers teams in past years there. Look, I mean, I'm sure you could drill anything down and find some interesting facts about it, but my thoughts on run games have always been this, and for several years now. I don't get caught up with volume. I don't get caught up with yards per carry. I don't get caught up with total yards per game. I get caught up with how many explosive runs do they provide, if any, and what the successful run rate is. Plain and simple. Because if you hand me about a couple of third or fourth and short runs. How many did they have in the Bengals game? Situations where failed third and short or fourth and short runs?
Several. I don't know the number, but it was multiple.
Right. If you give me a couple of those and they're successful, we're probably still talking about it from a yardage aspect, but it changes the complexion of the game, right? Because you're moving the chains, you're eating up more clock. So once again,
it does. But isn't that such a low bar to just be like, if you convert on 3rd and 1, you're solid?
Well, you should.
I mean, you should, right? You should. But that is bare minimum requirements, and they can't even do that right now.
Right. But what I'm talking about, if that moves the needle on your successful run rate to a lot closer to 50%, it's easier to swallow the total amount of yardage. I mean, give me, You take away 4 runs, you go 4 runs, and you're not able to convert on those 4 runs, and you give me those 4 runs as conversion. I don't care if it's still the same, if it's only 4 more yards each. It changes the complexion or the overall view of your running game. And plus it probably gives you more chances to run during the game on top of it, which in turn gives you more chances to be either successful or unsuccessful there. So, look, I mean, if you're running good anyway, if you're running successful anyway, you're probably going to have more than 48 yards in the game, right?
Yeah.
Right?
To your metric, obviously, they're not getting explosive runs and they're not being successful with their run plays. So no matter what advanced metric or more simplistic metric you want to use, they're failing miserably.
Right. What I get is there's going to be this big thing that the Steelers, because Ben's throwing 40 times a game. And look, Ben, you're right. Ben does not need to throw 40 times a game. The more we can get away from Ben having to throw 40 times a game, the better, obviously. But on the flip side, don't measure this team's running game by the amount of times that they're running and by the average yards per carry. There is
when it's 2.9. I mean, there's a point where it's just
right. Well, once again, your successful run percentage is going to factor into that, because it's going to set up more times for you to run on top of it. And you hopefully you're not just getting 3 yards or 2.5 yards in a cloud of dust each time from there. There were some nice runs in that game. We tend to forget about that. There was a very nice 16. Actually, right out of shoot, I think the first run was like 5 yards. There was a 16-yard run. In there. There were. I think Benny Snell, even though later in the game, it was like an 8-yard run in the game. The problem is that you've got these runs that in short yardage situations that are failing, and then you've got a few others that are not just losing a yard or two; they're losing 5. That's crushing. From the aspect of putting you behind the chains. It's all about staying. It's all about the staying ahead of the chains, right? Even if you're a yard short from the successful rate on 1st and 10, which is 4 yards, which hopefully you should be gaining. You can stomach the 3-yard 1st and 10 carry, but the problem is they're not even getting enough of those, from the successful runner. The negative yardage is what really attracts my attention in this, along with the horrible success rate.
Yeah, so we'll see what they can do against the Jaguars. Maybe we'll talk to John here in a little bit about the Jacksonville run defense and what to expect there. But it's just
it's all ball bearings nowadays. It's all ball bearings.
Still don't know what that means, but it sounds wise. Wise stage, Dave. Mike Tomlin. You'll appreciate this, Dave. Mike Tomlin was asked about trap games.
What? Wait, hold on. Let me make sure I've got the recorder going here.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So you were saying on the cusp of on the cusp of the Steelers' 10th trap game of the year. What?
Mike Tomlin agrees with it. He does not subscribe to the trap game narrative. He was asked about it on Tuesday and said, quote, I'm not into the trap game discussion. I understand that that's things that you guys like to talk about, but this is the NFL, and more than anything, the guys know my attitude regarding that. We are not a Big Ten team playing a MAC opponent this week. Every time we step into a stadium, we're playing with professionals, players, and coaches. And we've got a ridiculous level of respect for that. So taking a shot, I don't know if it's a shot at the Big Ten or the MAC or both, but either way, because they draft a lot of MAC, they draft guys from the Big Ten and the MAC. But anyway, Mike Tomlin does not believe overlooking opponents is an issue, and I know we both agree with that assessment.
Absolutely. I could not wait to get back around to write that one up last night. He'd been better off saying this. What conference is Appalachian State in?
The Sun Belt, I believe.
There you go. This is not the Big Ten versus the Sun Belt. Because let me tell you, how dare him put down Maction.
Did you see Maction last night? Kent State put up like 69 on Akron.
Yeah, did you? I mean, that fumble deep down in the red zone. Look, Maction is up there now with Pac-10 after dark, right? I mean, you just don't miss or Pac-12 after dark. You just don't miss some of these games now. There for sure. But look, basically what he's saying is what we've said all along here. Look, this is not college. This is not Michigan versus Appalachian State. These are professionals, man. And these guys are paid. They have pride, too. And any given Sunday is a term that's been around, a cliche. It's been around forever, and that's the way that it is in the NFL now. Look, you go back through some of the stats. You know, there has been, what did I write up? There's been 14. Oh, where is it here? I'll find the stat here real quick for you on because the Steelers are 10-point favorites, or at least they were on Tuesday morning. How often do double-digit underdog NFL teams wind up winning those perceived quote-unquote trap games? So far this season, teams that are 10 or more point favorites are 13-1, according to Pro Football Reference. The Kansas City Chiefs, Alex, oh, Lord, if Andy Reid's team would just quit playing down to the competition. The world champion, Kansas City, defending world champion Kansas City Chiefs. I'm trying to put some, you see, I'm trying to put some lipstick on this.
Like Bruce Buffer.
Yeah. Kansas City Chiefs, the team with the second best record behind the Steelers this season, I had to make sure I threw that in there too, are the lone losers in 2020, and that happened in Week 5 at home against the Las Vegas Raiders. Dating back to 2018, Alex, there have been 95 games that included a team being favored by 10 or more points, and the underdogs in those games compiled a 14-81 record. So yeah, big upsets in the NFL happen at around a clip of around 15%, which is probably, would you have guessed that? 15%
I would have said it was
rate?
around 10%. Yeah.
You would have guessed lower, right?
I would have been around 10%, I think.
Right, 15% rate. Now, I at some point, probably during the offseason, I'm going to really beat this dead horse.
Really?
Yeah. Not that I do that kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
But really dig this thing down, over the last, let's say 20 years to find out how many times, heavy favorites have ended up losing here. So, it happens, folks. It doesn't mean that, there's this trap game narrative. And anyway, that was music to my ears to hear Tomlin talk about.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I don't want to rehash all that again. I think that was just,
Go ahead, be my guest.
We've
got
talked
nothing
about.
but time.
It's just some of the logic of the Steelers. They always lose to teams that they should beat, and yet they're always overlooking teams they should beat. Like, if they lose that much to teams that they should beat, then how do they keep overlooking them? I just think that those things don't really mesh. They're not really consistent statements. And Steelers have lost some games over the years, obviously, as all teams have. And so I don't think you overlook any one opponent because you know that you've lost the occasional game to an underdog, a severe underdog before, including Jacksonville. So I don't think they're going to overlook the Jaguars, who may only be 1-8, but you never know. As you said, it's football. It's the NFL. Upsets happen every single week, and you got to go out there with the mentality of that this game is a jump ball, and you got to go out there and earn it.
Here's one other aspect of it for you. Of the 24 games since 2018 that included a visiting team being a double-digit favorite, only twice has the underdog won. So a visiting team, on the road being a double-digit favorite, only twice has the underdog won in the last since 2018 in 25 games. So this week, obviously, the Steelers are on the road. Now, one of those two times was the Oakland Raiders upsetting the Steelers in Week 4.
Why do you mention that every podcast?
I don't know. It's just that game, and it seems to always fit in a lot of unfortunate areas there. The Steelers were 10.5 point road favorites in that contest, and they lost, obviously, that game 24-21. Yeah, I know that was a classic trap game aspect of it, but the fact of the matter is they're on the road. They're obviously on the road this week, and the only other stat is, there is something to the Steelers being heavy favorites on the road, and they have probably lost more than most teams in double-digit situations like that. In fact, Tomlin is now 7-4 after that win against the Dallas Cowboys a couple of weeks ago. He's 7-4 in road games that Pittsburgh were favored in to win by 10 or more points. So, is there that aspect of it that still needs to be talked about until the record gets better there, or will be talked about? Yeah, but it's not this whole. It's a trap. Look, I mean, the Jaguars gave the Packers a little bit run this past week, and I haven't gotten deep into that game, but upsets in the NFL happen more than people think they do.
Yeah, and that's just the reality of sports, reality of the NFL. You can look at basically every single week and point to an example or two. Anything else from Mike Tomlin that he had to say? He talked about Ray McLeod and just said he's really been consistent in terms of his being a potential game breaker for us. Quote, we're excited about his growth and development, and we'll just keep working and keep getting him to stadiums. And he's been, he leads the NFL in punt return average right now, 15 yards on the dot.
Man, what catch? He's subscribing to the Dave Bryan return method. Catch a ball, run straight and fast.
Should sell that.
Yeah, put that on a bumper sticker, right? I mean, look, what else can you say about it, man? It's a welcome sight for sore eyes, is it not? To turn around and get a possession or two right around the 50 or beyond. I mean, that's like a turnover, And even though this team is getting turnovers, how many turnovers has this team gotten this year that has put them in plus territory?
Right.
I mean, to me, anytime you get a fourth down stop or a punt return that goes on the other side of the 50-yard line, maybe that needs to be started. Counting in extensive stats as turnovers. But yeah, it's good to see, man. It really is.
Wow, and so Ray's leading the team in punt return average this year. Deontay Johnson led the team in punt return average last year. Has a Steeler ever led the team in punt return average prior to? I'm sure it maybe happened at some point, but just maybe a good quick stat of the weird for people to enjoy.
Yeah, I don't have that in front of me. Do you have the answer or no?
I'm pulling up now.
Or are you going to tease us?
No, 1961, Johnny Sample. In 1947, Walt Slater. And Bill Dudley in 1946. The only other times a Steeler has led the NFL in punt return average. So pretty cool territory right now. And, of course, the bigger news is the kick return game, because that had been miserable for 3 years running, and now it is around top 7, I think, in the NFL. And so that's blocking. That's a unit thing. But McLeod has certainly brought a spark to that game that's been really impressive and really important.
Danny Smith forever.
Hey, there you go. I got someone in the fan club now. It's now 2 people. Fan club's been around for
we'll get T-shirts printed up for that. And
hey, I already have the T-shirts. I got the T-shirts already. All right, Dave. Anything else from Mike Tomlin from his presser yesterday?
What'd you think about the Marcus Allen comments in the dime in the dime and all?
What did he say? Just that, Allen's done well and third-year guy.
He says, I'm just living week to week in that regard. I like the contributions of Marcus Allen, and Marcus has a skill set that lends itself to those environmental things. He is a good blitzer. He can run really good for the linebacker position. He's a good coverage guy for the linebacker position. His attributes have been an asset, blah, blah, blah. He just goes on. We have looked at a lot of different combinations in the time that guys like Mike Hilton, Devin Bush, Ulysses Gilbert have been out. We looked at guys like Marcus Allen and Antoine Brooks, and on the outside at the cornerback spot, even Justin Lane. We like our experiences there. We are getting a sense of what those guys. I don't know. Did we learn anything moving forward other than just it was a question about Marcus Allen? He's just kind of fluffing them up a little bit, or is there anything to read into that?
No, that was my takeaway. I mean, they really don't have a lot of other options right now. Allen's done, I guess, a serviceable enough job. I think Tomlin's assessment is correct. Safety with some, playing a linebacker that obviously came in the league as a safety that's more athletic, a better cover guy for dime situations. I think that, it's making the best of a kind of difficult situation when you lose Bush, then you lose UG3, and you're just trying to find someone that can try to fit in that role and hold their own.
What else stuck out there? James Conner for right now is still going to be the bell cow, if you will. They're obviously, as you mentioned at the top of the show. Look, I mean, the emphasis this week is going to be on running the football better, plain and simple. We'll see if what that turns into. We'll talk a little bit more later in the show about maybe some things maybe that you found in the running game, or I found in the running game that you and I kind of hit on, I think, briefly on the live stream the other night there. But it's hard. There's a lot of little things going on in there, and if they just get about half of those little things fixed, I think maybe it'll help the running game out.
Yeah, we'll talk about the Steelers' run game in a little bit, but for now, let's talk to our buddy John Reid, Jaguars beat reporter for the Florida Times-Union. Be sure to follow him on Twitter at JohnReid64. So we'll talk to John, get his take on the Jags, and be back in a moment.
Okay, welcome back to the Terrible Podcast. It is Wednesday. That means we have a guest on, and a guest that covers the team the Pittsburgh Steelers will play in this week. And it is week 11 of the NFL season. That means the Steelers will play the Jacksonville Jaguars on the road in Jacksonville. Man, we are extremely blessed to have back on with us again a guy that was on with us a couple of years ago. He covers the Jacksonville Jaguars for the Florida Times-Union. You can follow his work on Twitter at John Reid 64. That's John Reid, REID 64, all one word. You can read his work online, Jacksonville.com. Very entertaining. He comes from my neck of the woods down there, New Orleans to Jacksonville corridor. I am, of course, talking about John Reid. John, welcome back to the Terrible Podcast. So great to have you back on again.
Hey, glad to be on. Glad to have some fun.
Absolutely. You got a great perspective, a great attitude. I know it's kind of tough covering a team that at this point of the season, is out of it. But there are a lot of positives, I think, going on with the Jaguars right now. Obviously, dealing with the Gardner Minshew injury, not having him in there. You got a rookie quarterback in Lewton. Jake Lewton going to make, I believe, his third start this week here. But let's start this way, John, from kind of a 30,000 foot perspective here. Give us a kind of a quick overview on the Jaguars season to date, some of the positives, some of the negatives here, and where is Doug Marrone in his status right now?
Well, let's start with Doug,
right,
and then we can move on. But Doug, I feel that he's on the hot seat right now. I mean, it's like going in his toolbox and he can't come up with anything to fix this problem. And you kind of feel for him. I mean, he's very frustrated, says that his soul is get ripped apart each loss. And I mean, the guy putting in everything he can, but he just doesn't have talent to win. And I think that's the thing. I think the decision on this Jaguar team right now being where they're at, 1-8 and 8-game losing streak, goes back to the decision making back in February and March when they decided that they wanted to go with this youth movement and trade veteran talent like Calais Campbell and Yannick and people like that. And when you move that many parts, and particularly veteran parts, it just, these young players are good players. I think C.J. Henderson is a good player, and they got a lot of young, good talent, but you can't thrust them in a situation like that, put them in front line situations, and then basically have them learn on the job. And I think that's what it's been like. I mean, there's been some good play. I mean, I think James Robinson has, for a guy coming in that nobody knew about and undrafted, and come in and run the ball like he did and force them to release Leonard Fournette. I think that's been remarkable to have a kid of that talent and emerging like that. And I think Laviska Shenault has shown a lot at wide receiver with his versatility. But I think they're getting beat up front. That they don't have a pass rush. The offensive line, which they thought would be much better than what they performed, hadn't performed up to level. And it just, I think obviously their defense has been the bigger problem. But just, even with the quarterback situation, you thrust Jake Lewton out, and 3 weeks ago, this kid hadn't even taken basically a snap in practice, other than scout team. And you thrust him out there against Houston, and, you holding a rabbit's foot and hoping good things happen, but it just not meant to be. And I think that, when you go back and you look at why is this franchise? I mean, I look back. I covered this team my first year in 2017, and they went to the AFC title game. The veterans. I mean, you would think that they were on to a start of being a competitive team in the AFC, but when you make poor decisions, I mean, this franchise has not made the right decision on quarterback. You can't win without stability at quarterback, and I think that's been the major problem. And I just think they don't evaluate talent. I mean, I mean, we got a defensive coordinator that doesn't know how to use a 20th overall pick in the right manner, and I'm talking about K'Lavon Chason. I mean, he's not a guy who put his hand on the ground and you expect him to brush off the edge and get sacks. I mean, he's a guy that stands up, maybe. I mean, at LSU, his versatility, he played, sort of like an outside linebacker, but they use him in different ways. He comes to Jacksonville and they reprogram him. And those are the mistakes that, I mean, if you knew that he wasn't going to fit in your scheme, then why would you use a 20th overall pick to draft him? And decision making like that from upstairs in the front office has really been detrimental to this team, I think, and it's not just this season, not just this past off season. Over the years, it's just bad evaluations and just, and who knows what the direction is. I mean,
right.
most franchise would look at and say, look, man, we on an 8-game losing streak this season. We was on a 6-game losing streak last season. And the season before that, we lost 7 in a row. And when you look at any other franchise in this league, would probably say it's time to move on from what we have. And with Sean Khan, that's not, I mean, it's like he's complacent or something. Like he's not taking charge, not making decisions. And you just have a fan base here that's just grown restless. They complain, and they got every reason to complain because they're just not moving in the direction to satisfy any fan that things need to change in Jacksonville. Ain't no question about that. That record says that 1-8.
It certainly sounds like they're going to tear this thing down, especially probably upper management and then obviously head coach and all like that. Is it a direct reflection on Khan at this point? I mean, does it indeed start at the top with him, or is he just, obviously he's hiring the people to put into position there and all like that, but he's not a hands-on guy, right? He just hires the guy and hires the people and lets them do their job, which is good. I'm a firm believer in letting GMs be GMs and coaches coach and all like that. It doesn't sound like he's a meddler or anything like that. Is that kind of where I guess a triple-fold question here. You expect them, I guess, to clean house, above Marone and including Marone and the whole coaching staff, and then on top of it, I'm guessing you're thinking that this is going to be a Trevor Lawrence kind of race now at this point, and they got to get a franchise quarterback in there. Is that right?
Yeah, you said everything right. I think they definitely going to. Well, for what I hear, they're going to clean house and you don't want to go. I mean, let's face it. If obviously they're going into another rebuilding situation after this season, and you get the number 1 pick, or you get Fields at number 2. I mean, you're starting over, and you don't want to start over with the same people you started over 3 times previously before now. So Dave Caldwell, and I say, I mean, I'm always truthful. I really feel that he's been one of the problems. And what you said about Shad Khan, I mean, everybody knows in Jacksonville is that it's good to be hands off. It's good to not be a owner who meddles and just put your hands on things that you really don't have experience on, and you put those guys in place to do their job. But the problem with Khan is that you have to hire the right people to put in place to make football decisions. And when you go and lose back-to-back seasons and fans doesn't see any change and the same guy in charge continue to make the same draft evaluation mistakes at quarterback, and this is a performance-based league. This is not a league based on how well your friendship is with the owner or vice versa. And you have to, you have to make progress if you want to sell tickets and if you want to be a viable franchise. And with this situation, I think Khan is more, in my opinion, I think he's more interested in getting. They're working on a Lot J development in the parking lot situation outside of the stadium, trying to get like a entertainment district. And from the fans of Jacksonville, they feel that all his interest is putting money in his pocket and getting this development started. And he doesn't have the same passion to get this football franchise in a way that they can be competitive and be back to what they were in 2017. And yeah, they fired Tom Coughlin. I mean, in my opinion, I thought he was like more so the scapegoat of, well, we're gonna blame it all on Tom,
right,
for all these problems. And obviously he wasn't. I mean, he was part of the problem, but at 1-8, who do you blame now? You got to blame the head coach, and you got to blame the general manager, and it's just a bad situation. I covered basketball for 15 years in New Orleans, and boy, I saw some bad basketball, some bad management decisions, and those when you make bad decisions when it comes to personnel, particularly drafts, it's not just a one season suffering. I mean, you can make a mistake that last 2, 3, 4 seasons is continue to make those mistakes, and I just see the same thing here in Jacksonville.
John, you had mentioned the 1-8 record, the 8-game losing streak. Things started off okay though for Jacksonville. 1-0, beat the Colts, divisional opponent, week 1, and then you lost the last 8. Is there a common thread for those 8 losses? Is there one problem that you're seeing over and over again that's led to this lengthy losing streak?
Yeah, when you give up 30 points a game in 6 straight games, that was the problem.
That'll do
it. There you go.
All right.
Thanks for coming.
Yeah, you give up that many points and then don't find a way to put the right guys on the field if you have those right guys. But I'll say this, the defense have played okay the last 2 weeks. But, at this point, moral victory is almost like a win. They went to Green Bay. They played tough, but, they couldn't. Last 2 drives, I think they netted like about 38 yards on the last 2 drives. They couldn't pull that game out. And defensively is the issue here. And it's been an issue for the last 3 years. And I don't know why. I mean, I do know why. I think that the Doug Marrone has a great relationship with Todd Walsh, and it might be too close that he didn't want to pull the trigger on moving on from him. And you just have a defensive coordinator here in Jacksonville who puts his scheme ahead of the talent. He doesn't fit the talent with the scheme, so to speak. And you have guys playing out of position. I'll give you an example. Miles Jack played middle linebacker here in Jacksonville for 2.5 seasons. Everybody, including the blind man, knew that he was playing out of position. He's a great talent, athletic-wise, but getting off blocks and going through all that traffic in the middle, that wasn't he wasn't suited for that. Mm-hmm. So they relented and say, well, we need to see what he do at outside linebacker. And the guy having if they wasn't 1-8, he would probably be an all-pro. But he's averaging almost like 11 tackles a game. It shouldn't take 3 years for anybody other than this staff to see that this guy can help. His natural position is outside linebacker, not middle linebacker, and it took him 2.5 seasons to figure that out. And that's one of the problems. There's been many more. But
right.
You had mentioned, the youth movement of this team. So many new faces that I know even Dave and I are trying to get to know. Talk about Jake Lewton making his 3rd start of the season. Where are his strengths and weaknesses, and has he exceeded expectations for somebody that I'm sure probably had 0 expectations when he first signed with the team?
Yeah, I think he showed poise. I think he's exceeded expectations for a guy who really hadn't taken a snap in practice since August. And, you know, the big thing on him is he has a gun for an arm, he's strong arm. He can make tight window throws, and his pocket presence is much better than Gardner Minshew as far as, you know, stepping into the pocket to make throws and things like that, not running out too soon, letting things develop, looking downfield, and checking off on receivers, going with second and third options. And he's been a pro at that. I mean, and they got a decision to make, you know, it's the remainder here of what do they do going forward. And Gardner Minshew has returned to throwing. He's not going to be ready to play Sunday, but, you know, he, like Marone, is going to have to make a decision, and it wouldn't surprise me if they stick with Jake, because you know, it's just the fact that he can make throws that Garner can't make because of his arm strength, and being a 6'6" guy, you know, I mean, he could look downfield and you know, I think the biggest problem with Gardner Minshew is just that his pocket presence, it hadn't gotten any better from what it was a year ago. And not only with the hand situation, he just, you know, to me, looked like he regressed a little, but that also contributed to the offensive line hadn't performed up to level what they expected. But Jake has done, in my opinion, done very well for under the circumstances of where this team at right now. And, you know, I don't think he's the long-term answer, but I think that he's shown that, you know, this is a guy that we need to look into probably being our top backup of the future. And let's see. I mean, I think he's answered a lot of questions that they didn't know about before he got in here as a starter.
Mike Tomlin, during his press conference on Tuesday, you could tell he's really impressed with James Robinson, the rookie undrafted free agent out of Illinois State. And we haven't gotten to dive deep into his tape yet. Alex and I usually start doing that on Wednesday after we have the guest on and all like that. But going back, we're big draft buffs too. I mean, we spend all off season doing all that stuff and following the combine. And I just found, you know, something that Alex had wrote way back at the combine. He says, looking for a small school sleeper, check out Illinois State's James Robinson. I know I need to, he wrote. He says, he highly productive at the FCS level, who didn't run fast, a 4.64 at 219 pounds, but he had a 40-inch vertical and a 10-foot 5-inch broad jump, and those explosion numbers are impressive. And now fast forward, here we are now. This kid is all-time kind of leading undrafted running back where he's at with all-purpose yards and all like that. Why did this kid come out? Fill us in on him. Why did he come out of nowhere like this? And is he for real? And is this just another example of kind of why the running back position in the NFL, as I like to joke with all my listeners and readers, is a fungible position?
Yeah, and I tell you what, the measurables mean a lot in the when you evaluating draft talent, because I talked to his coach at length at Illinois State, and he's shocked 3 months into the season of why in the world this kid didn't get drafted. And it only goes back to I assume the 4.6 40, because from what I've seen, and I watched Leonard Fournette for 3 seasons. This kid does everything better than Leonard. He elusive. He runs north and south. He's not sliding around trying to look for an opening. When he gets the ball, he's heading north or he's heading south. He's not going east and west. And it's just he runs hard. He ran hard in training camp for the few carries he had when Leonard was there. And he's no nonsense. I mean, he doesn't speak much. He's all about football, and it just seems to me that this kid is like he's been in the NFL for years. That's the way he kind of carries himself. And another strength he has, he can catch passes out of the backfield. Mm-hmm. But his vision is excellent. He got quick feet. He's elusive. I mean, he checks all the boxes. And if he runs a 4.6, from some of those runs that I've seen, he looked like he's run a 4.2 to me. So sometimes I think the scouts kind of take too much of the measurables and try to, project future impact and things like that. But when you look back, even I looked at some of his college tapes at Illinois State, and it looked to me he was performing. Obviously that's not the same level as the NFL, but I see some of the same things he was doing in college. He's doing now, and it's just amazing to me that this not someone where the opposing team doesn't know about, hadn't seen on tape, and don't know how to come up with a plan to stop him. They've been trying to stop him, and they haven't. So he's a natural talent, runs hard, sees holes, develop, get through them real quick, got a burst of speed only in the open field, and I don't see anything that says to me that this kid is not going to be a star. He's shown everything to me that it just sometimes talent can come from everywhere. It doesn't have to come from Michigan State or Big Ten and places like that. And I just, he's been the most remarkable, amazing, the MVP of a team that's 1-8, and I don't see no change in that. I mean, it looks like he's getting better week to week to me. He ran over 100 yards against Green Bay, and that was under adverse conditions with wind and rain, and it wasn't snowing, but it was in the 30s. So, you can go to Lambeau Field and run for 100 yards. I think you can go anywhere and be productive. And I think this kid is showing it each week, not just, week 2 and you don't know who he is in week 3, hadn't performed. He's performed every game. He's ran hard every game. He's been productive. The only problem that he's had at some, in various games this season of not getting enough carries.
Right.
He's had some 11 and 12 and 13 carries. Now they realize, hey, we got to get this kid the ball. And, I think he had 23 carries this past week and had 25 against Houston. So you can expect that he's probably going to be in that 20-25 range again against this Pittsburgh team. But this a whole different ball game with the Steelers, the defense. Right. So I don't know.
When you look at a receiver, I really like DJ Chark when he came out. Keenan Cole's done some nice things, and Alex Knight studied Laviska Shenault quite a bit. Is Shenault going to be out? Is he healthy enough to play? Will he play against the Steelers? And are those top 3 receivers enough?
Oh, for Pittsburgh, no, I don't think it's enough. But Laviska, he's right now questionable. I think they're going to take a look at him at practice today, and then make an evaluation from that. But I mean long term. Those 3 long term. If they get the right quarterback in there, is that enough? Oh yeah. I think they have the skilled position players. I mean, I think they got enough talent at receiver, which is obviously the strength of this team as far as position-wise. I think they have enough. I mean, DJ Chark is a guy who can get separation. He can catch the ball deep. You look at Laviska is a kid. He's versatile. He can even run the ball. He's a physical receiver.
He's great. He's great after the catch.
Yeah, he is. And you have Keelan Cole. He just Mr. Reliable. I mean, he can make every catch, and I think they hadn't been throwing to him enough. They are now, but I think his consistency has been something that's been remarkable. And then you have Chris Conley. I don't think that he's a long-term answer here in Jacksonville, but he's capable. But I don't think they have to dive in that draft and really use a first, second, third round pick again on and adding another receiver as a playmaker. I think they have those playmakers there. I'm really impressed with DJ Chark because he hadn't really regressed from last season. He made the Pro Bowl last season. He's been frustrated not getting enough, what he feels, getting enough balls thrown to him. But as far as his route running and things that he he does on the field. I mean, I in some aspects he's even gotten better than what he was a year ago. But yeah, I mean, I think that offensively, it just, the issue is the offensive line, injuries, and non-productive, and quarterbacks running for their lives and those kind of things, which I'm sure we're gonna see a lot of that Sunday. But but big playability from the receivers, I think, in my opinion, that's their strength position, and I don't think they have to have an overhaul at that position going into next season.
Flipping over to the defense, I know you said specific or overall the defense had struggled, allowed 30 points in so many games this year, but specifically the run defense, where has that unit been at? The Steelers have been really struggling with their ground game in the last month of the season. They're trying to find some answers against the Jags. Will they find it? Just give me an evaluation of the Jaguars' front seven.
Well, believe it or not, I think that the run defense over the last four games has been not bad. But it's their defensive front just can't get any pressure on them. You look at, a perfect example of unproduction is the way Taven Bryan is just, for a guy that they picked in the first round in 2018, and he just hadn't done anything. You look at this past Sunday against Green Bay, I think he got 38, 39 snaps and didn't make anything. He wasn't even on the stat sheet. And you have that. And I just think that, I do see potential in Devon Hamilton, the rookie from Ohio State at nose tackle. He's really come on. He's getting pressure up in the middle, and he's making tackles and those things. But Josh Allen, who had a great. I thought he had a good rookie season, hadn't performed at that level in his second year. And that might be contributed to you don't have a Calais Campbell, who may have drawn some of those double teams away from him, but he can't. These guys, their problem is they got one move. They're trying to bull rush through blocks, and I don't see enough spin moves. I don't see enough technique with their hands. And they just, they can't get to the quarterback. They like one-dimensional pass rushers, and it's been a problem. Todd Walsh has tried different matchups. He's tried to switch some things around, and it just hadn't worked. And I think that's been, if you want to put what's the biggest issue from the defensive standpoint. Other than being too young, that defensive front just, it hadn't been anything. Man, they lost a lot of players from players opting out that they were expecting to play this season. And then they thrust them. They were signing players during the season on Monday, and they were playing them on Sunday. And that's just the way it's been here this season. And they just can't get any consistency from among the front seven at all. The linebackers are making tackles, but they're making them, 8 yards down the field. And, it's just the quarterbacks are just standing in the pocket and just having target practice. That's basically what it's been all season, And where they go from that at that position, I don't know. But that's probably one of the mistakes they made in the draft of not getting a real dominant pass rusher in the first or second round. I know they got Caleb LaVon, but Caleb LaVon wasn't really a hand-on-the-ground pass rusher at LSU.
John, we could keep you on another 2 hours if you'd let us, but seriously, you are so easy to talk to, man, and it's all coming back to me when we had you on a couple years ago. There, man, we wish we could just we wish you covered the team in a division here, so we could have you on more often here. But here's how we do things, obviously, on this show. 2 years ago, the Steelers obviously played the Jaguars in Jacksonville. I think they were 4-point favorites in that game. Obviously, the Steelers had to come back from a 16-0 deficit in that. Ben Roethlisberger had to have a last-minute run in from a 1-yard line to end up winning that game. How do you see that? I have a feeling I know which way you're going to go on this, but I'm going to let you do it anyway. How do you see this game going Sunday in Jacksonville, John?
Well, yeah, I see this. It will be nothing like that what you just described.
All right.
I think Pittsburgh will be scoring often and a lot, and I just don't think they can match up physically on that offensive line against that defensive front. But looking at those stats, you guys got, man, you're leading the league in tackles for losses. You're leading the league in quarterback hits. I mean, come on, man. This team can't handle that type of pressure, man. So I'm thinking prediction-wise, it'd be 30-14. That's my prediction, and the Steelers on top. But this team not ready for a physical 9-0 Steelers team, and this team is nothing like definitely in 2017. I think when the hits start the hard hits start coming in the first quarter and continue on, I just don't think this team can match up with that. I mean, they can't fight back. So, and it could get worse. You guys, the Steelers could score more than 30 points and hold these guys to one touchdown and a field goal. So it's going to get ugly.
All right,
sorry to say that,
hey, you're as honest as so zero chance at an upset then, right? Yeah.
No, I jump in a pool if they win this game. I jump in a pool in Pittsburgh and it's snowing if they win. If they won't win this game.
John,
you are confident I am.
All right. Hey, John, you are absolutely fantastic, man. We appreciate you taking out time. And like I said, Alex and I could talk football with you for another 2 hours, but we know you got a busy day ahead of you and all. So with that, look out on Twitter because I think you're going to get a lot of great feedback from our great show listeners and followers and all. And with that, thanks again for coming on the Terrible Podcast with Dave and Alex.
Thank you, John.
Hey, no problem, and enjoyed it, guys. Thank you, man.
And welcome back to the Terrible Podcast. And again, our special thanks to John Reid. Be sure to follow him on Twitter at JohnReid64, R-E-I-D. Covers the Jags for the Florida Times Union and Jacksonville.com. And Dave, you won't find too many guys that are more honest and have the candor that John does. And we certainly appreciate him and his time.
Yeah, we had talked to him 2 years ago, and, we do so many shows and have so many people on, beat writers over the years. Sometimes you tend to forget, kind of the demeanor of some of these guys we talked to. Man, it didn't take me 2 minutes to remind myself what a great guest he is. He's got that slow roll. I mean, it's like talking to your buddy about football.
Mm-hmm.
It's like having a huge, gigantic Jaguars fan on, an honest one. A very objective one. At no point, when you talk to John Reid, do you get the feeling that this guy is one of those stuffed shirt, media guys there. So, man, I truly mean, I wish, he's the kind of guy you wish you could have on the show every few weeks and all, because that pure and honest. So, listeners, look, we know you're good at this. Make sure you reach out to John on Twitter at John Reid. What is it? John Reid 64, right, Alex?
Yep.
And let him know how appreciative you are of his time. And boy, just a great guest.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, Dave, let's jump into the Bengals review now that the All-22 has come out since our last podcast. And obviously, I think just starting with the Steelers' run game overall, I know we're still both working through some of the film, but I was just surprised about how poor this team was when they were pulling guards, or where they were running some of the pin and pull schemes, guys getting blown up, putting the running back off track, and just kind of ending the play before it ever began. So again, there were multiple issues. There were issues, I think, with running back, with offensive line, play calls, etc. Everything is involved here when things have been as bad as it has been. But I was just surprised for a team that is so good with power and gap schemes that they struggled that much against a Bengals unit that they should have really dominated.
Yeah, why did they get away from 11 personnel? Why did they insist on doing some things that they haven't done in a while with some personnel that they haven't done in a while either, right? I've got some audio coming here. Do you hear any audio? Is that me?
No, I don't hear anything. When you say different personnel,
I found it. Obviously Zach Gentry, first snaps of the season for him. Not many of them, but you have him out there trying to run behind him. Derek White obviously hasn't played in very many games this year, and not only that, not only do you put him out on the field, a lot of times you put him out there on the wing at a tight end position, which is not what he does. That's another instance there. So, and you kind of wonder how much those guys have worked. They missed Vance McDonald for sure, I think. And another thing is why did they get away from the pre-snap motion so much on top of it there? There was no good. I understand it more in the Dallas game because you got behind and all like that. But in my opinion, there was no reason to kind of get away from that and some of that split flow zone, stuff that they had some success, I think, early in the year as well too. And yeah, you're right. You had Okorafor and DeCastro with some not so good reps on a couple pulls there, and it looked clunky for sure. And then one other instance that I brought up to the other night on the live stream was one time you had the corner coming off the edge. Was that a run blitz? How often times do you see that in those situations early in the game on a 1st and 10 situation, or are they picking up on some of the keys? Are the Steelers just not disguising it well enough? There's got to be a lot of self-scouting that goes on this week because, let's face it, the Steelers have like 6 running plays anyway, right?
Yeah.
They're not very elaborate in that, and it's just the way it's been for you. You go back to even Bruce Arians' era. They're still running a lot of the same stuff there. So either they need to start putting a lot more lipstick on this, or they need to start getting some of the right personnel groupings in there. And I told you at the beginning of the season, I don't care, that I was not looking forward to this team running out of 12 personnel and really 22 personnel for that matter. I think they got to run a little bit more out of 11 personnel to keep opposing defenses on their toes. With that, what all did you see?
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I think you're running at Eric Ebron's side, you're generally going to have problems. Again, his effort has been there on some of the leverage blocks, the down blocks and stuff. It can work, but when he's trying to base block somebody, not that it's all on Ebron, obviously it's not, but that is just one component of it. Just to go back with the power stuff, though, I've noticed that, and you've made this point before, Dave, that I think defenses are keying in on some of the gap and power runs with the pulling guards, and they're wrong-arming the guard where they're coming inside now to try to blow the play up instead of being outside leverage and getting kicked out, and the back comes off the inside hip of the puller. That happened on one play where Matt Fowler pulled early in that one, and I think Connor ended up going for 1 yard on that play, kind of danced around. So I think defenses are keying in on what the Steelers do well, and they're countering that well, and the Steelers aren't countering back, and that's got to be the challenge for them. I'm conflicted, though, because I'm trying to decide, should this team just get back to like super basics, just super, base install type stuff and just simplify things, or should they really start dressing things up, as you mentioned, and try to add some different wrinkles that may create a new element, a new gap in the run game? I'm not sure which camp I'm in, but I know in terms of the base, gap stuff they're running, I think defenses are really responding to that well, and the Steelers aren't adjusting to that.
Why not both? Why not bring some elements of just the basics back, along with dressing up some of the other things that you do with the people on the move? They have. Look, I mean, the reason you bring in Matt Canada is to help with some of these motions and all, right? And we thought, because if you go back to last year, now, yeah, you had a quarterback that wasn't getting a lot of quarterbacks not getting a lot of respect and all like that, probably caused defenses to key in more on the running game. So okay, that excuse was that excuse. All right, now you have a quarterback that literally can, pick you apart, bite by bite, if you will, and yet you're still struggling after having some nice games or nice games. I mean, let's face it. At no point during this season we said, "Oh wow, would you look at that Steelers running game?" Right?
They ran really well the first month.
They ran well,
and they were closing out games with the run, which was the most important part. Yeah, right. They weren't elite, but they were a whole lot better than where they are today.
Right. So, I mean, it's a lot of everything too. James Conner's not Nick Chubb. He's not, if somebody wrong arms inside, he's not the guy. He's slow to read that. and it's not his game anyway to get around the edge and beat people to the edge on that. So look, I understand what Mike Tomlin in the comments that he made the other Tuesday, talking about James Conner's still going to be the bell cow and all like that. But on the flip side of that, they have done enough now with Anthony McFarland and getting him in enough situations there where no red light. He doesn't enter the game with a flashing red light on his helmet at this point. Mm-hmm. So with that, you need to get him now involved in the game for 6 or 7 run plays where you can take advantage of that home run ability with him. We saw it at Maryland. We saw his ability to be able to hit gaps quick and then get through that second level quick. He's a physical enough runner to have a couple of carries that go in between the tackles, and really not so much. I wouldn't expect him to run behind power because I don't think he did that a lot at Maryland. I think it was just a lot of zone type runs, correct? At Maryland, and then do some other stuff where maybe you're pitching it and getting them out to the edge and all like that. So sure, James Conner's going to be your quote unquote kind of bell cow guy. But I think the time is also come to get Benny Snell a couple. And look, the thing about we've learned about Benny Snell is what? You've got to get him a couple carries early in the game because he becomes a better runner. At least I think, even dating back to his time at Kentucky, the more carries you get him as the game goes on. So if that early carries means using Benny Snell as your short yardage back, in other words, I'd start putting labels on these guys if you have to, and if that includes removing the bell cow label from James Conner at this point, so be it. I mean, James Conner is a phenomenal. He's we've mentioned it several times. He's probably one of the top 2 or 3 pass protecting running backs in the NFL. So in situations where you need to keep teams honest and might want to pass with a running back on the field, yeah, put him on the field. But outside of that, I think it's time to mix up the fungible running back group that the Pittsburgh Steelers have.
Sure. I think I'm all for any answers, any kind of combination at this point. I was surprised that Snell really didn't play at all until very late in that game, just to try to give a different back in there. I did think Conner had an excellent day in terms of pass pro, and that's something he's been very good at since his sophomore season. But if there's different combinations you can bring in, maybe you just want to bring someone off the bench, see if they can provide something different, I'm all for it. But yeah, I think I would use a little bit more pistol, a little bit more downhill run action. The 16-yarder that they had on Sunday, I believe, was out of pistol, so a very much downhill kind of get Conner going forward type of guy. And McFarland, if you can trust him enough, then yeah, I think you got to give him a couple snaps as well. But yeah, it's just been really disappointing as a unit-wide failure for the last 4 weeks.
All right, percentage. All right, people expect us to have all the answers for this, and really we don't when it comes to this aspect of it here. I mean, I've looked at it. I've looked at every running play for the last 3 weeks, three games, 10 times each, and there's so much little things going on that it's so hard to specify. So with that, I'm gonna throw it to you for this. How much is execution versus scheme, play calling, I guess?
Yeah, I mean, I don't have a way to really quantify that super accurately. I would put 70-30 leaning execution, 70% of that being a problem, 30% schematic stuff that you could potentially change. But again, this unit's capable of blocking. I know we can talk about, did they have the right guys and stances and backs and stuff like that, but they ran the ball well enough given the potency of this pass game the first 4 to 6 weeks of the season. So they're capable of doing it. They just have to get back to it. And to me, that says it's more of an execution issue.
I was going to put it about 75%. So you and I are right there together. Right. 75% with execution. I really look running plays in the NFL. Nobody's reinventing the wheel here, right? You just got to execute better. People, and I don't buy any of this 3-point stance or any of that stuff either. I know it's fun to talk about as a possibility, especially when you have had a guy in there like Kevin Dotson do what he has done in his limited time there. But I don't think it's all that. I think it's just you got to get off the ball and you got to make your block, and the back's got to trust what may or may not be there. Reid read the second level defender if he needs to, and then go from there. 4 yards per carry should be the goal. 4 to 6 yards per carry should be the goal, because if you give me 4 to 6 yards on every carry, there's going to be a lot of happy people here. I think your success rates are going to go through the roof, and occasionally one of those 4 to 6 is going to end up 16 to 26, and so. I think they should be able to get it right this week, and if they have another woeful running output against a team like the Jaguars this week, that's and I'm not talking about totality. I'm talking about I'm not high volume. I mean, I'm talking about it better be damn near a 50% success rate or better in this thing, and that should then produce a nice yards per carry and maybe 100 yards or more rushing in the game.
Yeah, effectiveness, situational run game, got to be at least the building blocks of getting this thing back on track. With the pass game, to stay with the Steelers offense and Ben, I mean, I just like the combination of man beaters in terms of the route combinations, being able to flood against zone, a lot of quick throws, just kind of simple, basic concepts, nothing too crazy or fancy, but just very, very efficient, very quick hitting, putting defenders in conflict and just kind of flooding zones and using pick routes to beat man coverage. And so that's just a good combination that the Bengals could not match up against.
All right, on the Chase Claypool touchdown.
Which one?
The one over the middle there, up high. Okay. There on that particular one, I'm trying to remember what was the read progression. That was the one where he, he meant. We talk about that being a good pump fake in there. I think his intention was to go over to the flat on that side, and I think his just being Ben and having that great arm strength. In other words, I don't think that was a planned pump fake. I think that was. Last minute, I don't like it over there.
Yeah, like 75% of Ben's pump fakes are just, I just don't want to throw there. I changed my mind. They're just
that's got to be hard on the arm. I mean,
yeah.
And I'm just saying, okay. Now look, this is going to come off as me criticizing Ben Roethlisberger, but I think just the more you get into the tape on this, I think literally, I think he was first going to go over that way. Who was it? Ebron over there in the flat on that on a cloud. So. I think that was a cloud corner over there on that side with a covered red safety over the top there, and then but in him doing that. That linebacker dropped like he got shot in the back. That linebacker probably going to catch hell in the film room this week. And then look, there's nothing wrong with that throw. That throw was up where only Chase Claypool was going to catch it. The other touchdown I want to talk about was the one to Juju there, the one where quite honestly, Ben should have taken his first read on that, and that's Deontay Johnson being hot coming across the middle there, because numbers, all of that formation, pre-snap, and everything screamed, just hit Deontay Johnson on the easy underneath open crosser, and that's possibly a touchdown there. But Ben, that play, I think from that game best illustrates why Ben is Ben. He forgoes that easy one and then hits Juju on the over route there, So those two really stuck out at me with going kind of deeper into the tape. And then one other thing was the touchdown to Deontay Johnson. Did Deontay catch that ball, or did the ball catch Deontay?
I think both. I mean, I think Baldy did a great breakdown of just showing Ben through that before Johnson had even come out of his break. And so as soon as he turned his head around, the ball was right there. He made a good catch. That's a lot of zip on that throw. And that is just a great timing route, and really no chance for the defender to make a play on that ball.
And once again, I thought the catalyst to the whole thing was the deep ball to Deontay Johnson on a nice double move down the left side. It's good to see Ben drop that in the bucket, all conditions aside. The numbers illustrate that Ben tried to push the football down the field more. Oh, the other one, the pass to Juju down the seam there. If the receiver doesn't slip and Ben doesn't pull that back last moment, that's how that one worked out. So Ben and these, I guess we qualify them as pump fakes. but they're not really pump fakes. They're oh no, kind of moments. But those two things obviously led to some big plays in the game here. So sometimes, I guess long story short, there was a lot of Ben being Ben in that game against the Bengals that goes beyond just the one touchdown to Juju in the back of the end zone with him stepping up and all like that. I mean, there was a lot of Ben being Ben in that game, and that's probably why he won AFC Player of the Week.
Sure, just the efficiency, the smarts, decisiveness, knowing where to go with the football, or reading coverages. But really, that touchdown to Juju just kind of shows that it's the new age Ben. It is the pocket passer, Big Ben, where he has the free rusher. He steps up, finds space, climbs the pocket, and throws a bullet right on the money to Juju. That's not running out of the pocket, shaking guys off, doing all the crazy Sandlot stuff Ben did early in his career. It's making plays from within the confines of the pocket, stepping up, pitching up, and then making a throw and throwing a touchdown to Juju. But I will say the one backyard Ben play, though, was that 14-yarder to James Washington, where I don't know how he saw Washington. He just had to have felt that the whole way and just kind of threw cross-body, maybe not the most advisable throw, but that was kind of a glimpse at the old Ben of just run around, throw cross-body, know where your guy's at, and a lot of trust for Washington to make that play, and he did for a good game.
That's an illustration of it, and then also the one that went through Chase Claypool's hands. Would Ben avoiding pressure going out to the right side? If and I think, is there any other way to rule that but a drop? I mean, you got to rule that as a drop, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's a tough catch, but it's one that Claypool, is capable of making. Probably should have made.
All right, so if that's the touchdown there, that's kind of another illustration of Ben being Ben. Right,
Yeah,
so,
I mean, he just knows where his guy. Like on the touchdown to Juju, his eyes had dropped because he's hitching up, and then he just knows where Juju's at. As soon as he looks up, he's making the throw. It's on the money. To James Washington, he just looks back, and as soon as he looks back, he makes the throw. Like he knows where these guys are at. Just the feel and presence and vision he has, even when he's not even looking at these guys, it's really remarkable and a super underrated, understated part of his game.
That was the most Ben being Ben game that we've seen this season, correct?
In the sense of what definition of Ben being Ben?
Those kind of all those plays. I mean, foregoing the underneath crosser to Deontay to step up and avoid a situation they probably shouldn't have had to avoid on his own part for a touchdown there. The throw back to the middle field that you just said. The touchdown to Chase Claypool, pulling back the pump, and then hitting Claypool in the middle of the end zone. The rollout to the side, several aspects of it.
Yeah, I mean, and for a guy that didn't practice at all until Saturday,
exactly,
did a walkthrough, and that was it. Now I don't know. The Cowboys game might have been the most Ben being Ben because it was an injury, and you had Limpy Ben, and so that is classic Roethlisberger. But
that's Cowboy Ben.
That's Cowboy Ben. Okay. Yeah. I mean, all this last month has just been Ben trying to really carry this offense because the run game just has not been there in any sort of capacity. And whether that's no huddle tempo, whether that's not practicing, whether that's playing through injury, I mean, those are all very hallmarks of Ben's career.
And it doesn't help that he's got wide receivers that can get a lot of yak too. And I think that's an underrated aspect so far about the season that Ben Roethlisberger is having. It's okay, and much like 2018, it's okay to be dink and dunk as long as you're getting that yak on the backside. Now, it would be a lot different story in these games, and we'd probably be talking about Roethlisberger in a little bit of different light here if he didn't have the amount of yak that he's getting so far this year.
Probably, but I don't know why someone like the PFF guys downplay that so much. Like Tom Brady lived off a yak, just throw short to Welker and Edelman and Amendola and all those guys.
I really think I really think the real difference between, and what stats did I put up the other day? 2020 Ben versus, when was the last time Brady won MVP? 2017, was that it?
I'm not sure,
Brady,
to be honest.
I'll pull that up there while you talk here.
But yeah, I mean, there's nothing wrong with being efficient. I mean, the quarterbacks today, you're supposed to be efficient. You're not 1970 and you're Bradshaw and your run game plus deep ball, and so you're not going to be efficient, but you'll hit some big plays downfield. And when you're throwing 50 times, you want to be efficient using the quick game to substitute the run game. And so I have no problem with any of that stuff. And of course, the receivers are making great plays post catch.
All right, here's 2017 MVP Brady versus 2020 Ben Roethlisberger. Obviously 9-0 versus 7-2. They've completed damn near close to the same percentage of passes. Brady was 67.35% completion. Ben just a hair less at 66.77. Brady had him by 600 yards, and Brady's, even 2017 Brady wasn't a push the football down the field guy, right? I mean, 40-year-old Tom Brady. It seems like so damn long ago, man. I've been at this a long time. He had 2,800 yards through 9 games at the time. 2807 for Brady. Ben is 2267. Ben does have 3 more touchdowns than Brady at that time, 22 versus 19, and the interceptions are Ben 4, Brady 2. Their quarterback rates are right there in line. 108.3 for Brady versus 103 for Ben. Ben obviously sacked 12 times less. That's a huge differential. Right there, being sacked 12 times less, and that's obviously part of Ben getting the football out quicker there. I think the biggest knock from the analytical sense and the grading sense of why Ben is slotted in that 15 to 16 range from an analytics aspect of it is the fact that he's just not hitting down the field with enough with the passes. Now the adjusted net yards per passing attempt stat now being just over 7 better encompasses what he's getting after the catch, right? Because passing yards are passing yards, all right? Mm-hmm. When it comes to that statistic, I think where he's getting dinged in these quote unquote advanced analytics and quarterback ratings once again is the down the field stuff here. So, and I've said this all season long, if he could just start hitting at a little bit higher rate, down the field here, and I'm not talking 20 yards. I'm talking the 12 to 19 yard area, and we saw him start to kind of do that in this game against Cincinnati. If that kind of thing continues, then look out, brother, because if you got a quarterback that can both get rid of the football quickly and that aspect of it and get the yak that way, in addition to pushing the football down the field for 3 or 4 extra completions a game that way, I think that's going to make a huge difference in this thing. And that's why I think you're seeing these advanced analytics with Ben, quote unquote, not getting the respect, however you want to frame it. And also, look, we don't know every aspect of Pro Football Focus's grading as well, too. Maybe he got dinged a little bit for not taking the underneath slant. I mean, the underneath route to Johnson on the touchdown. We don't know every aspect of it there. So I think there is maybe some maybe decision making that maybe they ding him on for. But long story short, I mean, the tape shows us that this guy is still obviously a top 10 quarterback in the NFL, right?
Right. Yeah, and that's all that matters, is that he is the right guy for the job, and you're glad he's on your side. That's all that matters. Anything else from flipping over to the defense, or you want to touch up on the offense there, Dave? Anything else that you saw from the offense, or any thoughts on the Steelers defense?
Pass protection, I think obviously fine with the style of game that Ben's playing right now. Route combinations, I think the route receivers doing great. I think Ebron's really fitting in this offense. So, I think other than just a running game, which is a topic all unto itself, which we had, and Ben just needed to try to push the football down the field a little bit more. I mean, look, they're still putting up 30-something points a game. I mean, it's working. It's working.
It is. They're doing a good job of stressing defenses both vertically and horizontally with their route concepts, so that always gives you options either underneath or over the top. How about Ebron's 24-yard catch? That was the old bang 8 that the Cowboys ran in the 90s. Aikman to Irvin and those guys, and that was just a great money throw from Ben and a good catch by Ebron.
Absolutely, and we don't see enough of those seam tight end catches in Pittsburgh these days, right?
Yeah, hopefully we'll see more with Ebron in the mix. With the Steelers defense overall, let's talk about the one blemish, really one of the very few blemishes in this game was the 54-yard completion allowed to T. Higgins. Clearly a blown coverage on that one. In my estimation, the Steelers made a last-second coverage check, and it never got communicated to the cornerbacks, and it's supposed to be cover 3. It was not, and that's why Higgins got so wide open.
That was so hard to read, the coverage on that, because of, is that cover 3 lock?
No, it's just cover 3. If you look at the next 2 plays, they run out of the same empty set. They run the same personnel grouping, the same formation, and it's cover 3 on both of those. I think the Steelers shifted their front at the last second. Edmonds was communicating with Fitzpatrick. They moved Watt off ball, and I think the message did not get received to Cam Sutton and Joe Hayden.
All right, so Joe Hayden's got to be the deep defender on that then.
Yeah, he has deep responsibility, but I don't think whatever check they made and audible they called did not get sent to Joe Hayden. So
why was Minka so far on the other side of the field against the 2 receiver side? That's the confusing aspect, I think, of it.
Was Burrow looking that way? Did he look him off?
Look, pull that out. Look at pre-snap there. That was 3-by-2 working left to right, correct?
Was it 3 on the left side or 3 on the right side?
The 3 on the right side, right?
Okay,
correct?
Yeah, I think 3 on the right side.
All right,
yeah.
So if that's 3-by-2 in that situation there, and the ball was, and the 3 side was the field side, was it not?
I believe so. I'm trying to pull up the play right now.
And what I'm getting at is pre-snap there. Why is Minka seemingly playing either a quarters or a half coverage on the boundary side?
Yeah, I mean, it's a good question. I don't know. Maybe there was some
I want answers.
Film study. Maybe he's hiding, trying to disguise something. But I just know that I guess it would have been Hayden just needs to carry that regardless of what Minka's doing. That's supposed to be cover 3, and it was just a communication check that I did not think got passed off to that side.
I mean, that is a little peculiar where Minka is pre-snap, right?
Yeah, maybe he's just trying to hide. Maybe trying to show, is this going to be deep half? Are they going to rotate? So I guess he ends up floating back closer to the hash on the snap of the football. So maybe he's just trying to hold or disguise something to kind of confuse Burrow that it looks like single high, but he's close to the numbers. So what am I getting here? So I think maybe he's just trying to play games with a rookie quarterback over there. Plus Burrow, I think, is looking left off the snap. So that's kind of also holding Fitzpatrick a little bit.
Because I like the minutia part of it here when it comes to, I love trying to break down coverages and find the answers to some of these things. What do you think the call, Hayden and Sutton thought the call was on that side?
Whatever it initially was. I mean, probably some sort of cover 2 deep look, as obviously Hayden's playing in the flat there. But if you look at the next two, because usually the way I try to determine coverage bust is try to find other plays where it worked. If you look at the next 2 plays, it's the same exact formation, same exact personnel grouping against empty set, and they're running cover 3 and they're carrying guys vertical. So that's my clue about what the check was supposed to be. And you can see Edmonds talking with Fitzpatrick and them changing kind of the front at the last second.
All right, great job on that, Alex.
Thanks. Run defense overall, I mean, yeah, I think looking back at it, it wasn't as bad necessarily as maybe some of the stats might show. I mean, there were a couple of chunk plays that were a little disappointing to give up, but overall, you saw some improvement there. So that was good to see, of course. Not that the Bengals were a super scary run threat, and you got to do a better job to face Robinson and the Jags this week, but some improvement there at least.
Yeah, and I think we talked about this a little bit on the our live stream show. Is really we're starting to get some people in that thing, aren't we?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you for everyone who's been there.
We talked a little bit about that popcorn in that running game the Bengals had, but I think when you drill it down in the fourth, I'm looking at it right now on the charting here. In the fourth quarter, they had, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 runs. And I think one of those, I need to take one of those out because that was the fourth down fake punt, so we cannot gig him on that.
Yeah, that shouldn't be in my charting, right? Because I cut that out of the charting.
Right, I have it in some raw charts that I do.
Okay, gotcha.
1, 2, 3, 4. They had five successful plays out of, what did I tell you? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 5 out of 10 in the fourth quarter. So that's a lot of where their runs, and that does not include the fake punt either. So I think as a whole, the first 3 quarters of the run game is how that run defense, I think that's how that should be broken down. And if you do it that way, because they had a 12, they had a 15 and 8. I mean, how many is that? 13, 27, 28, that's 27, 29. But they had damn near over 50 yards rushing, I think, in the fourth quarter when the game was basically over.
Mm-hmm. Do we know what their success rate was in the first 3 quarters? It was 50% in the fourth. I mean, I'm assuming it was lower in the first 3 quarters when the game mattered. I'm vamping while you get that information
I appreciate
together.
That you are a great vamper for me.
While you do that, just another note for run defense. Trey Edmonds, I got to give him credit. His run fills were excellent. He was reading things well.
He comes in that one like a blur. I thought you speeded up the tape on that.
I hope not. I had a small issue with some frame rate stuff, but I think that one's in real time. But regardless, like he was reading the play, he was getting downhill, he was finishing the play. I thought it was one of his best games ever versus the run.
4 of 9
in the first 3 quarters.
In the first 3 quarters, 4 of 9 success rate.
They only ran it 9 times.
I believe that is correct.
40, so that's 44.4% success rate. So a little bit lower than the fourth quarter.
Right. I mean, and we talk all the time, 45% or less, and obviously that's not a large sample size either.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, their runs were 3, 1, 1, then they had the 14 to Samaje, then 8, then 2, and then another one, 11. Let's see. Let me read them all to you. 3, 1, 1, 14, 8, 2, 11, 4, and 1. And there you go.
Yeah, so a couple of chunk runs there that hurt you. But they all count. So better, but still some work to do.
All right. But I mean, overall defense. Look, I thought they Sutton obviously played a good game. He came very, very close to a pass breakup on the one. If he gets the other arm in there, he probably breaks that one up. I think that was on Tyler Boyd. AJ, Joe Hayden really had a great game on the outside over there. Other than really the 2 plays that stick out, right? The busted coverage and then the red zone touchdown that we already talked about. I don't know if we talked about that on the podcast. I think we talked more about that on the live stream. So why don't you tell everybody what needs to happen there on the really easy pitch and catch red zone touchdown pass?
Yeah, I mean, really, there's 2 schools of thought. You can either banjo the call where you're going to pass that off and switch up your man coverage assignments, or I think you got to get hands on these receivers and press somebody and try to disrupt timing and not allow the pick to happen, not allow the slant to happen to Higgins. I mean, all those receivers had a free release, and if you allow free releases on the goal line, even if you're playing tight rolled-up coverage, I mean, against a guy like Higgins, a big body, power forward type dude, it's kind of hard to make a play there. So I think you either have to banjo it or be more aggressive in press coverage.
All right, and what do you think about here's the good thing. Tyson Olualo in his first game back, because of the team not having to play a lot of base, that means he didn't have to play a lot of snaps. But in the snaps that he did play, what'd you think?
Yeah, he looked like regular old Tyson Olualo. I mean, had one great swim over Hopkins and got in on a run stop. The numbers, I mean, the Bengals averaged like 4.5 yards a carry with Olualo on the field, so the numbers didn't look sparkling. There was a couple of chunk runs that kind of skewed things a bit, but just happy that he's back, and especially with Bugs being out, thank God Olualo was able to play.
How did this happen with him?
I mean, it's a good question. I think
we talked last year. I mean, we were talking last year about Olualo and being, boy, how impressive of a season is he having as a defensive, as a fill-in defensive end, in certain aspects against the run, against the pass. We had come around tremendously on Olualo last year. But now, I mean, it's like at a different level, and is obviously in a different position too. This guy is 3 times the player he was in the first 3 years he was with the Jacksonville Jaguars. how does this happen? I mean, the guy has impressed the living hell out of me, as you can tell.
Sure. Same. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe nose tackle and playing along the interior was always kind of going to be his best fit. I'm not quite sure what the answer is. I'm just glad it's happening, and I'm sure enjoying the ride.
You got to resign this guy, right? Somehow, some way.
Yeah. I mean, if there's a will, there's got to be a way. And Sunday will be interesting. Not that it's the first time he's playing back in Jacksonville, but obviously starting nose tackle against his old team should be kind of interesting.
All right, what else? I think we've anything else on the tape stick out from you?
Yeah, one obvious one. TJ Watt just whooping on. I think I had the right tackle's name wrong, but I think it was Quentin Spain, the right tackle. Whoever was over there just got whooped on.
He wore him like a hat, man.
Yeah, there was 3 straight plays where Watt won all 3 reps, and the third one resulted in a sack. So, I mean, just over and over and over again. TJ Watt, of course, playing out of his mind. Shout
out to Henry Mondo on the crasher on the Watt sack. Tremendous job on that TE stunt on that. Unfortunately, is Mondo going to be the odd man out here? Who's going to be the odd man out off the roster? You got to cut someone here pretty soon to make room for Wormley. Do you put somebody? Do you put one?
Well, they have an open roster spot right now. They don't have to theoretically.
Yeah,
cut
well,
anybody.
I'm assuming though Dotson or McDonald coming back. You know.
Sure. True. I mean, yeah, that's a good question. I don't know who the cut is. There is no obvious answer, unless Bugs has to go to IR or something, some sort of injury there that we don't know the severity of. But I mean, there's no obvious guy where you just sit there and say, okay, yeah, cut him, because that guy doesn't exist. They're all playing and they're all kind of holding their own.
I'm just saying, do you slow roll this with Chris Wormley right now? Is there really a reason to bring him back right now?
Well, I just think, obviously, because this will be his first week back at practice, I don't know if you go ahead and play him right away. I mean, I guess it just depends on his overall readiness and conditioning and stuff like that. So you may have an extra week or so to kind of decide what to do with Wormley.
You know, as optimistic as Mike Tomlin was talking about getting Wormley back this week, I don't know if that, there is no context there. Does that just mean back at practice?
Right.
I think the optimism side of us wants to say, oh, he's back. But I guess what I'm saying is neither one of us are going to be stunned if he's not on the 53 come Saturday, right?
Yeah, I'd be more surprised if he was right now than if he wasn't. Last note I have from this game overall, just talk about guys that we love watching play. Jordan Dangerfield. Well, he's just a lot of fun to watch. I mean, this dude just flies around. He's diving under tacklers. He's blowing up dudes on the punt return team. I mean, it's just the tenacity, the energy he plays with. I mean, he's just a whole lot of fun to watch.
And shame on us, because there was several years right in a row where we were hee-hawing about putting him on the 53 and his agent getting on us and and all like that. But that guy's quintessential. That guy's your new Cheaty, isn't he?
He's close. I mean, no one will ever be Cheaty, but he's up there.
Excuse the living hell out of me.
Do not disrespect the good Cheaty Iwomas. What is he now? He was Blesto Scout. I think he's an area scout now, but yeah, Dangerfield just kind of cut from that similar cloth. Those special teamers, they got to have a couple of screws loose, and he does, and I mean that in the nicest possible way.
Absolutely. All right. What else we have here? Boy, what a fun show this is.
Yeah, and what a good holds from Jordan Berry. Cameron Kennedy's snaps have not been that good this year. I don't know if PFF tracks long snappers. I think they do, but I'd be curious to see where Kennedy's grading out, because it does not seem to be his best season.
I would agree.
Couple of good snacks there from Barry Sunday. All right, Dave. Before we get to reader emails, we do have updated comp pick news. Nick Corte from Over the Cap, who is the expert on anything comp pick related, projects the Steelers to get a 4th-round pick for Javon Hargrave, a 6th-round pick for B.J. Finney, potentially maybe getting a second 6th-round pick for Tyler Medikevich, depending on how that contract gets valued by the NFL in the comp pick system. But right now projected to get a 4th and a 6th for the 2021 NFL Draft.
And just to kind of recap where we kind of were ahead of this, I think the expectation was kind of ahead of this that it was a slam dunk 4th and possibly 2 6th, right? Mm-hmm. And now the updated long story short, the updated analysis from Corte, which, by the way, props to that guy, always keeps me in the loop, and I think he's absolutely fantastic when it comes to that. And I appreciate him tagging me on those kind of stuff on Twitter. That's highly respect. Make sure you follow him on the Twitter machine because of that. But the kind of updated analysis that he has is that there might not be that extra sixth in there, and it's because because the NFL only awards, I think, 32 compensatory picks a year, and with there being on pace to be a record of what is it, 46 potential qualifiers for it, there's got to be the cut line at 32, and according to his analysis right now, Matakevich would be just outside of that number there, right? So, and I think that is the thing that's keeping this from potentially being 2 sixths and a fourth, and possibly being just 1/4 in a sixth when the smoke clears. Obviously, none of that's set in stone, but man, that guy's damn good at what he does in that. So that's why we wanted to pass along that information.
And for whatever it's worth, BJ Finney is the second last to qualify, and I don't know how the league's going to deal with his didn't play a snap this season kind of situation. So I'm not even going to lock in the Finney pick. I think it's going to happen. I think Corte believes it's going to happen as well, but that's not even guaranteed right now. So I think the only thing you can safely assume right now is a fourth for Javon Hargrave.
Yeah, and look, playtime to some degree plays into this. And
right.
How often do you have a guy that earning that level of contract that he's earning? Has he really not played a single snap?
He didn't play, I think, a snap with the Seahawks, and I don't think he's played for the Bengals in this short time there this year. He's played 0 snaps on offense. He's played maybe 20-something snaps on special teams. I assume that's field goal team. So, yeah. I'm sure injuries has created a 0 snap issue before where someone got hurt in camp and missed a season. But for something like this where a dude's been healthy and played, then got traded, I don't know how the comp formula and its Byzantine nature is going to handle this.
I put on Twitter just about 10 days ago or 8 days ago or whatnot, is there a possibility this guy circles back to the Steelers next offseason?
A decent chance, because I think you said the Bengals are going to cut him, right? They're not going to.
They have to. There's no way you can pay that guy $3 million, right? 0.
Right. So
even if you have to burn cash and cap money because of the floor, yada yada, there's just no way you do that. I don't think.
Right. So he could circle back for sure if you lose. I mean, Wisniewski's already gone, and so that'd be if you can bring him back, I think they'd do it.
When obviously with no guarantee, people saying, you can get better than him. I'm not saying permanent. I'm saying at least bring him in on a minimum salary benefit contract, and then let him compete for a job. I mean, I would think that they still love, BJ to some degree.
Yeah, I'm sure they can bring him back cheap as just interior swing depth. Yeah, they're going to be all for it. Why not?
Right. Don't be surprised if that happens.
All right, Dave. Let's get to reader emails actually and close out today's show.
All right, this one from Connor Dietrich. Hey, guys, I hope this email gets in before the show. With Wormley expected to play this week, which two of him, Davis, Mondo, and Buggs would you have active? I'd go with Davis and Wormley, but wondering your guys' thoughts. If you already covered this during the show, feel free to skip. No, well, I mean, we've kind of you know what, Connor? I expect him to slow roll. Boy, say this quickly.
Slow roll Wormley.
Slow roll Wormley this week. However, if they do activate Wormley, you're obviously not going to cut Davis, right?
Why do you say obviously not going to cut Davis?
I think they like him enough. Don't want to expose him. I think he ends up somewhere else if you expose him.
Well, which guy do they not like enough then? Because you make that case for anything.
I think Mondo. Mondo is a guy that.
But he's offering you on special teams. He's still playing a good bit out there.
That's true. You're not gonna part way with Buggs.
Does Buggs go to IR though? If that ankle that's been bugging him. He was on the injury report 2 weeks ago. Missed last week. Because UG3 went on IR with that back injury whenever they brought in Avery. So could this be?
Yeah, but I mean, him being limited at the very least, I think there's probably setting yourself up for some sort of maybe grievance or something there. Because I would assume that he's got something split There is he's got some sort of split contract situation there too that would end up with him making less money.
Sure, and if he's practicing full today, then obviously probably he's off the table.
Right. Now, if we're talking about him being full pay by going to IR, there's no way that he doesn't have split contract.
I'm sure he does.
And this is his second season, so he most definitely, I would think, have a split contract that would result in him going to IR making less money. So unless he's hurt, I don't see that. I'm not saying that it can't happen. I'm just saying I would be surprised based on my history with this kind of thing. Sure. So I think Mondo becomes the odd man out, to be honest with you.
Yeah, maybe. I think make a case for any of these guys. I don't know.
I guess you could keep all of them. Okay, who dresses?
Warmly.
If all of them are active. I mean, if all of them are under 53.
So you have 5 that are going to be dressing? Is that the number we're going with?
I would think that you're only going to dress 5 still, which would mean...
You got Hayward to it, Olualo, Warmly, and a 5th. I'm going to say... it's tough. I'm going to say Mondo just because special teams factor.
Okay.
And he can play. I mean, he can't play nose tackle, so Warmly is more of an end. Mondo can play inside out. That's a good question, though.
It's going to be a good one. What'd you see? He didn't play much. Carlos Davis, and that's one aspect that I got to look at later on today. How did Carlos Davis play against the Bengals?
Yeah, I got to watch more, too. He's playing late, and again, they just did not use a lot of base defense, so I don't have a good feel for Davis.
I almost think that you might want to keep him. I think he might start getting the helmet moving forward, if that makes sense.
Yeah, there's been some bugs that's been inconsistent. There's been an injury factor, some sort of conditioning, weight issue, some gap integrity issue. I mean, the guy's made some plays, but I think there's a level of frustration with bugs where it's just not everything's coming together the way that you want it to for the team.
All right, I think we spent too long on that question. Rodney Schussman writes in, run game issues. Hi, guys. I've noticed the last 3 games, the defenses have 9 to 10 guys within 5 yards of the line of scrimmage. This allows them to get bodies into the quick pass lanes in the middle of the field, try to defend the short, quick throws. It also allows them to get more bodies if we have blockers on run plays, especially the slow developing pull sweeps. Ben will have to improve his ADOT, which is average depth of target, and also deep ball conversions so that defenses can't crowd the line of scrimmage as much. I agree with that aspect there. That will help open up the lane for Connor so long as the offensive line can make a decent run block. Not sure why people feel the need to criticize Connor when the fact is Jim Brown wouldn't produce against these fronts, and the way Filer, DeCastro, and Chooks have been getting knocked backwards. Run quicker hitting runs up the middle with more use of jet motion. You're not going to beat with defenders to the edge unless it's jet sweep and the wide receivers block well. ... What do you guys think after watching all 22? Thanks as always, and Dave, kick its ass. Okay, Rod. I think it's why everything that you identified a lot of things there. And I think that's kind of what Alex and I have done as well, too. There's a lot going on here.
Yeah, there is. And I think that assessment across the board is really accurate and really summed up well. And so I think that those are all good points. Hopefully it gets better against Jacksonville. And just by the way, quick aside here, Ben's doing his presser right now.
I know where you're going on this.
And I'm just reading the tweet here from Will Graves. Ben Roethlisberger says he took exception to Mike Tomlin taking a shot at the mat yesterday. Said he'll clap back at Tomlin once he figures out what conference William and Mary is in. Ooh, that is a slam. I love it.
Oh, yeah. You and I talked earlier about why he chose the MAC to go against Big Ten there. And Ben I knew you were going to hit on that. Rodney, look, I think it's a lot of things here. I don't think it's just, as Alex and I talk, I don't think it's just James Conner. I don't think it's scheme. I don't think it's 3-point stance. Alex and I really, I think as you heard earlier in the show, I think it's about 70 to 75% of this execution with a little bit of the rest in there. It's going to be really interesting. Look, if they come out, there's several narratives that are going to come out of this Jacksonville game. A, let's hope they win. B, if they do win and they run the football for 150 yards, have a high success rate, then the narrative is going to be, well, it was just Jacksonville. Okay? if they have another poor running game, then it's going to be holy hell. What the hell is going on here? That's 4 games in a row. And it was Jacksonville, by the way. There's going to be a reverse narrative on it. The only win-win situation for the Steelers run game this week is that the run game was better. That's it.
I just want it to be better. People can have their narrative about it's Jacksonville. I just want it to be better. I don't care what people say. I just want the results to be there, and that's a good problem to have.
Right. Charles Munger writes in, guys, is there any correlation that Steelers have better run game when Dotson is playing? I would say not enough sample size in there. Would be interesting to see if there's a noticeable improvement in the team's run success rates for the games he has played. I should just focus on having an unbeaten team this year, but I've been wondering if Dotson should be next year's starting right guard and move DeCastro to left guard. Look, Charles, here's the long and short of it. Your 2 guards next year are going to be DeCastro and Dotson. Double D's.
All right.
I think I just made Alex blush somehow. There, double D's next year. The question is, who goes to what side? There, I would be surprised if it's anything other than that. I would think that you make Dotson the guy that moves, but that's just a guess there. That's obviously a long time away, and things have a funny way of working themselves out. What would your guess be of sides there with the double? What do you think about them double D's, Alex?
I think it's triple D's. David DeCastro, Kevin Dotson. I think triple D's.
Right.
Which is a Guy Fieri reference, maybe a little cleaner.
You're in that chick from Total Recall by now.
Okay, I get that reference.
Do you get that reference?
I do.
Okay, all right. We're cooking with some gas here now.
So you're playing with fire, all right, over there, Dave. What you're talking. I'm pretty confident Dotson will move to left guard. I think you're not going to be shuffling around extra guys, and just the fact that you'll hopefully have spring work and preseason and stuff like that. And Dotson already a year into this thing, he'll have a lot of reps and comfort at left guard that he's not having right now. So I'm fairly confident Dotson at left guard, DeCastro at right guard. To the question itself, I'm sure that the run game was better when Dotson was in there, but is that solely because of Dotson? No, they were just having more success overall. So I think statistically, if you look at the numbers, I'm sure Dotson's action is going to look better than where this run game is at right now. But is that solely because of Dotson? It's obviously not just because of the fact that he was in there.
Good answer.
Am I playing the feud?
Survey says Drew Hart. Do you ever take in any Family Feud with Richard Dotson era, or is that
the long microphone and the overly affectionate, like one's daughter kind of thing? Yeah.
And did you ever watch a show called Hogan's Heroes? Ever get into some of the reruns of Hogan's Heroes?
Like Hulk Hogan, his reality show?
No.
Was I wrong on that? I was being sincere when I said that.
Hogan's Heroes. Okay, you need to Google that one for me. Richard Dotson used to play.
My VCR.
It was kind of a sitcom war, and I like it more the older I've gotten. I didn't care too much for it growing up watching it, but obviously being kind of a war buff and the Nazis in Germany and all like that and all. It's quite entertaining. There's a lot of innuendos in there if you go back and watch Hogan's Heroes and all that you don't get when you're a kid growing up and all. But Richard Dawson was in Hogan's Heroes too.
Okay.
So Google that one. Podcast. This one from Drew Hardman. Boy, this show has. Alex, how would you rate this show right now? We haven't closed it out right now, but on a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate this show?
Oh, I think it's a good 8. I think John Reid, our buddy's saving the show today.
I think you and I both have been equally good, and I think John Reid. I'm giving it a 10.
All right.
I'm giving it a 10 so far. Drew Hardman writes in, I'm a long-time listener, and you two do a fantastic job. Thank you for providing my Steelers fix during the week. My question is, could the Steelers' overall defensive performance comparison between 2019 and 2020 be affected by the lack of holding calls? It appears that holding calls are down by about 60%, which provides a clear advantage for offenses across the league. I think Alex has already stated that offenses are scoring more this year in general. He goes on to write, we learned from Mike Pereira in October that the mandate was put through to officials to ensure calls are clear and obvious. And is implied that holding and PI are the most stress no calls this year. I believe I read that TJ Watt is yet to benefit from a holding call, but there's some times where he's just takedown 2 points, man, for sure. And he even tweeted about it a week ago to his brother. His brother's getting held a ton, and TJ is as well. Andrew goes in to write, this is certainly playing a factor in extending some drives. Is the league required to report these sweeping rule enforcement changes to the coaches and GMs prior to the season? I would guess there's kind of point of emphasis stuff and all. I don't know how to answer that question. He goes on to write, it seems like this change, which is having a major impact on the game, went largely unreported or was swept under the rug. The best way I can answer all of your questions, maybe, Andrew, is yes.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I'm sure some of this stuff, Tomlin's on the competition committee. Obviously, all coaches and teams get informed of some of the points of emphasis and rules, and they're all kind of clued in and in the know. But am I going to use lack of holding calls as any sort of big picture reason for successes or failures for any side of the football? I'm not. I just try not to use that because I feel like it can be too convenient of an excuse one way or the other sometimes.
I think Watt is being taken down to the ground. There have been several times, even on TV tape, which is hard to do because you're trying to watch, take your eye off the ball and all like that, where I thought, man, there's got to be a flag there, and there hasn't been.
Sure.
Now, James Harrison had those as well when James Harrison played.
Right. So it's not right. It's not new. I think we say that about all top tier pass rushers. So they do get held more because they're top tier pass rushers, and sometimes they get missed.
Drew, I think this kind of falls into the area that, man, we just there's so much for Alex and I to do during the week that and I'm with Alex. I'm not going to blame it or has it led to less holding calls? Yes. Right? I mean, I think that's the end. I think it begins and ends there with answering this question.
Right. It's affecting each team, so it's not some sort of unfair impact on the Steelers or their opponent.
Drew, maybe that's something we get into the offseason, brother. Chris Chippa writes in, hey, I've never emailed you guys before, but I've listened to your podcast for years. Gotta love these first-time emailers, Alex.
Mm-hmm.
Please tell me how Big Ben is not in the conversation for league MVP this year. The script has been written already. This is basically the same team it was last year minus Big Ben. Now Ben is back this year, and they haven't lost. He should undoubtedly be leading the MVP talk this year. I get I'm a Steelers fan, and some would say I'm biased, but come on. The proof is there. Without him this year, they may go 3-6. Am I crazy? Thanks, guys. Chris C. Chris, I get where you're coming from, but I also get why he's probably not considered a slam dunk MVP candidate right now.
Well, to be fair, I think I've seen him in the discussions more than I expected. I think Shannon Sharp had him number 3, I think, behind Wilson and Mahomes, and I think some other outlets have talked about that. So there's been more recognition of it than I anticipated, which is good. Obviously, I'm not saying that he will win it or even that he should win it, because I don't think he will, and it probably doesn't necessarily deserve it in that top spot, but he's up there. He should be in the conversation. I'm seeing that, so I'm happy with that.
I think in all the stats-driven world, throw the ball deep down the field aspect of this and all, I think that's why he's not there. This is not home. I don't think there's enough. I don't think Ben has enough dingers. Does that make sense?
Yeah, he's hitting too many singles and doubles and not enough.
Too many C&I ground balls. Balls with, you got to watch Bull Durham, man. Ground ball with eyes. You got to watch Bull Durham this offseason. Promise me you'll do that. If not, I'm going to make, people don't know this, but I'm planning, if I feel up to, I'm going to make, go see Matthew Marksey and Alex for the first time in February or March, around those time. So assuming that trip happens, then I'm going to sit down and force Alex to watch Bull Durham with me, potentially. Where was I? Ben, and I think there should be more slam dunk talk about him being comeback player of the year more than anything. And my apologies to Alex Smith and his leg almost falling off. Okay.
You said that with grace.
Okay, but Ben's arm almost fell off. Okay, and now he's back doing. And here's the thing: what has Alex Smith done? All right.
Did have a good game last week.
He did, but I mean,
but I understand.
Okay, you see where I'm coming from?
No, I agree. Ben should be comeback player of the year. Will he get it because of the Alex Smith thing? I mean, I don't know, but Ben deserves it.
Yeah, I mean, slam dunk, that should be it. I understand why Ben's not in everybody's MVP race, if that makes sense, and I think you would agree with me, right?
Of why he's not in the MVP race?
Why he's not slam dunk MVP? Right.
Well, he's almost certainly not going to win MVP, and I can stomach that. But if he does not win comeback player of the year, I think that's disappointing.
Even if they go 16-0 and he keeps playing like he's playing right now, should people be jumping off the bridges if Ben doesn't win MVP?
No, just because obviously he's not the best quarterback in football, and Mahomes and Wilson are just on a different level. And obviously Ben's been playing amazing this year.
I don't think Wilson's there, but go ahead.
Well, I mean
this year, but go ahead.
The numbers, are pretty ridiculous. But anyway, Mahomes at the very least, you're not going to beat out Patrick Mahomes in all likelihood unless something unforeseen happens the last half of the season.
We're such Big Ben haters. At least I am. I'm sure I'll get some emails for this, but that's my.
By the way, do you know what conference William and Mary is in? I did not know until I just looked it up. But do you know where?
That's not Colonial or no.
It is. You got it.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
CAA, Colonial Athletic Association.
There was something in the back of my head that made me go Colonial there. All right.
That scares the heck out of me. That's in the back of your head, and
and it should, Alex, because there are some things that, man, I am so blessed, and it took me a greater part of 30-something years of my life to accept the fact that a lot of my dysfunctions that I have are gifts, and trust me, it's scary. My wife has been married to like 5 different people throughout her life, and I've been all 5 of them. So imagine trying to live with that. But thank you. I have learned to embrace a lot of this. You just wouldn't want to live with it on a daily basis, I don't think. Randy Hunt writes in. DeAndre Baker, what's up, DNA? You may have already covered this by now, but do you think we'll make a play for Baker now that the charges have been dropped, or do you think the stain would still keep us away? Obviously, we don't have a lot of money to play with, but what would a contract for him look like now that given he was a first rounder? Keep up the good work. What is USBP Douglas Station? Is that military? What is USBP Douglas Station stand for, Alex? Is he military?
I do not know.
U.S. Customs and Border Protection. How about that? God bless you, Randy.
Well,
no, the answer's no.
Yeah, to the question, no. I believe Baker's already signed to the Chiefs practice squad. This was probably written before that news came in, but there was really no compelling need to go after Baker. And just even with the Chargers being dropped, it's an awkward situation.
Is he with the Chiefs right now?
I think that was the report. I don't know if that's 100%.
Chiefs to sign him to the practice squad. Okay.
Right. So he's going over there to KC.
All right, let's see if it's such a great show. I don't want to end it right now. Douglas Andrew, you probably do. Special teams Bengals game.
Douglas Andrew. No, I want to keep the show going.
Okay, all right. This is all you, Alex. First time emailer, Dave and Alex. What do you guys think about the fake punt at the end of the game? I believe it was with 7:53 left in the game. I thought it was a curious call. The head scratcher was after faking the punt, they drive the ball down to the Steelers 19 on 4th down. Zach Taylor decides to kick a field goal. Do you think Mike T files that one in the memory banks for the game down the road? Thanks for all the podcasts. Go Steelers 9-0. Hell yeah, as Stone Cold Steve Austin would say.
What do you think filing it away looks like in terms of remembering that? You think that means they're going to run a fake against the Bengals in their second?
I don't know, but there might be a whole lot of passing, though. With Mason Rudolph in the game next time around. That's what it looks like, Alex.
Yeah. I don't know why they ran it. And again, I'm sure they just got a look game and they just decided to stay with it. But couple of curious decisions there from Zach Taylor and the Bengals.
All right, I think we got like 6 or 7 more questions in here, and we try our best. Apologies if we did not get to it, but I hope you guys understand why, time permitting. This has been, Alex. I think we pitched a perfect game here. I really think we might have. So with that, let's throw it out to the listeners here, have a little bit of fun before Friday's podcast. How would you rate today's podcast on a scale of 1 to 10, with 10 being the best? Let us know either on the Twitter machine and you can do so at Steelers Depot. If you don't like talking to me or want to punch me in the face, tweet Alex at Alex_Kozora, at the show at Terrible Podcast. You can send the email theterriblepodcast@gmail.com. Let us know your thoughts and everything that goes along with that. Make sure you reach out to our buddy on John Reid. What a great guest he was today at John Reid 64. Thank that man for being on the podcast today. I thought he was a phenomenal guest. Not that we don't have phenomenal guests every week. Where am I? If you like what we do and you want to donate to the cause, go to SteelersDepot.com, hit the donate button, upper navigational bar. Also, if you like the site and you want an ad-free version of the site, go to SteelersDepot.com, hit the ad-free button. For $25 for 1 calendar year, you can have access to SteelersDepot.com, and we advise, a lot of people are taking us up on that. If you want to donate, we appreciate it. We thank you for listening and visiting the site and listening to the podcast. It's just been off the hook. I'm going to end this perfect podcast episode this way, Alex. And as always, thanks for listening to the Terrible Podcast with Dave and Alex.